Well, hello there, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the losses and destruction as a result of the ongoing ethnic clash between the tribal communities of Manipur and the Métis. When I say the tribal communities, I'm referring to the Kuki, Zomi, Mar communities. So, as we all know, war inflicts profound losses and widespread destruction, both tangible and intangible. Lives are cut short, families are shattered, and communities are decimated. The human toll extends beyond just casualties, encompassing the psychological scars of trauma and grief that persists for generations. Cities, towns, villages that were once pretty vibrant hubs are reduced to rubble and ashes, leaving behind a haunting legacy of architectural ruins. Economies crumble under the weight of the conflict, hindering development and perpetuating cycles of poverty. So, cultural and religious heritage is not spared, as monuments and artifacts are also often casualties, erasing a society's history and identity. Environmental damage further compounds the aftermath, disrupting ecosystems and jeopardizing the well being of future generations. So, without further ado, let's dive straight into the aforementioned losses and destruction. So, what you see here on the screen before you is the tribal losses till date. And before I proceed, I just want to clarify that of course, there are losses on the other side as well, from the side of the Métis. They have a bunch of losses as well. But since I'm not them, I'm not from that community, I'm just not going to talk about it, because even if I do, they're still going to say it's fake news, or, the data that I'm presenting is inaccurate or whatever. So let's proceed with the tribal losses till date. So the dead count is 147. It could be more, but this is the confirmed death count as of right now. I mean, as of 16th November, as it says in the picture right there. And the number of churches and quarters, meaning pastoral quarters, burnt is 357 plus, which is a lot. Houses burned, 4,550 plus. Settlements burned, settlements being, towns, villages, colonies, streets, whatever, is 257 plus. And displaced persons from our side of the community is 45,000 plus. So you might be wondering, in what sort of democratic government do people get to burn 357 plus churches and places of worship and desecrate them? And, basically nothing happened. There's no proper investigation for this, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm questioning the legitimacy of our constitution. And this is not like, I'm not accusing the government of being not secular. It's just, if it's like one or two or even five places of worship, then it's a little bit okay. It's not okay, but it's, understandable. But here you have 357 plus churches and pastoral quarters and places of worship being razed to the ground, and nobody has been caught. So, it raises a lot of questions, right? So, just let me just read the Constitution for you guys, the Indian Constitution. I have it right here. The Constitution of India. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens, I repeat, to all its citizens, justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. So there you have it. That's the Constitution of India. And 357 plus places of worship have been burnt, desecrated. And, nobody has been caught or even investigated for that matter. So, like I said, it raises a lot of questions. Houses burned, over like 4,500, right? So, justice for all, where's that? Fraternity assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity of the nation, where is that? So, it's a rhetorical question. We all know the answer, but I just want to put it out there. Settlements burned. So when these are just to you, to the viewers, these numbers might be, just statistics, but mind you, behind every number, behind every statistics, behind every dead count was once a living, breathing person. Let that sink in. What if that person was your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your cousin, your uncle? How would you feel? Would you be, very accepting if nobody even investigated the death of your family members? Would you be like, it's all right, like that's just how the government works, it's okay? I don't think so, right? As a human being who is a citizen of a particular whatever nation you might belong to, it would feel let down by the government. Whether it's from our side, meaning the Kuki, Zomi, Mar communities, or whether you're from the Métis side, if you lost someone as a result of this conflict and no investigation whatsoever is being done, you're going to feel left out. You're going to feel neglected. You're going to feel ignored, right? So that's what a lot of the people here in Manipur are feeling right now. And we've tried to express, our sadness, our anger, our frustration, but our voices, I guess so far they fell on deaf ears. I mean, that's the only logical explanation to all of this, because it's been 7 months, and most of the deaths, like 90%, 95% of the cases have been, like I said, no investigation whatsoever. So it begs the question, where is the justice system? Why are people not given their basic constitutional rights? You just gotta ask yourself that question. This is not Gaza, or this is not Ukraine. Let me just criticize our prime minister for a moment. I know it's a risky business doing that, but if he can tweet about, an earthquake in Turkey, for example, which is bad. Of course it's bad. I mean, it's not that we don't have sympathy, but you're like showing that you care to other nations, other countries, but your own citizens, your own people are dying in a pointless, bloody massacre based on ethnic tension and just communal violence and hatred, and you're doing nothing. And yet you tweet about Israel all the time. Not that I don't, not that I hate Israel, but, just saying, if you can tweet about people who live like thousands of miles away, why not, share a bunch of tweets, or at least send some aid, or, give us assurance that this ongoing ethnic violence will be curbed, or some cases will be solved, or at least, help out the displaced people. Here you have 45,000 plus on just our side alone. I don't know the exact numbers from the Meitei side, but I assume it's at least in the tens of thousands, right? And look, I'm going to make a comparison because that's the easiest way of making people understand. 45,000 doesn't seem like much when you compare it to like the 6 million Ukrainians who have left Ukraine, or the millions or the hundreds of thousands who are trying to flee Gaza, right? But if you look at the population, hold on, let me just give me a second. So there you have it. All scheduled tribes population, or slightly over a million. Kuki-Zo tribes, 448,197. So 45,000 plus people out of a population of 448,000. That's like a tenth of the population, which is pretty huge, right? So for you or for anyone in the government, in the justice system, or in law and order, whatever, or just a normal citizen outside of the state of Manipur to not care about it, or to be indifferent, it's like beyond me. Okay, I'm not begging for sympathy per se, but your own people, your own citizens are dying left and right, and it's just news to you, and you seem to care more and put more emphasis and more, you seem to shower your emotions out for people outside of your nation without caring for the people within your nation first. I know it might sound like I'm demanding for, hey, please help us. Please sympathize with us, please. I'm not doing that. I'm just like common sense, dude. If your neighbor is struggling, if you're a decent human being, you're gonna help them. You're bound to help them one way or the other. If they're struggling financially, maybe you can lend them some money. If they're having health problems, you can, help them pay for, a trip to the doctor or whatever. And if they're having problems with, I don't know, like mental, emotional issues, then you can try to comfort them, right? But we see none of that happen here in Manipur. Well, I wouldn't say none, but very like a minuscule, teeny tiny, just a blip on the radar, you know? So, yeah, it's pretty to be someone from Manipur and facing this situation that we're facing right now. It's a lot of times it's very disheartening, and also it's very depressing to know that, oh, they don't give a about us, you know? Imagine if this happened in, let's say, Gujarat, because our prime minister is from Gujarat, and 357 plus temples were burnt, let's say. I'm not wishing that it would happen, but, let's assume it happened. I believe the case is going to be solved in a week, in less than a week, probably in a couple of days. So what's the hang up? Dude, what's the hang up? Like, seriously. It's, it makes my head, like, it makes my blood boil even thinking about it sometimes. But anywho, let's move on. So again, there you have it, guys. I'm just gonna compare our situation to a lot of wars outside of India, because that way it's much more easy to picture for the viewer to picture the gravity, the intensity of, the stuff that's been happening here. So let me just read this through. From February 24th, which is the day Russia, the full-scale invasion of Ukraine began, to January 26th of 2023, at least 307 religious sites in 15 regions of Ukraine were fully or partly ruined by the aggressive attack of the Russian Federation. Churches, mosques, synagogues, educational and administrative buildings of Ukraine's religious communities. So a huge country with supposedly the second biggest military in the world, right after the United States, versus another pretty big country, the biggest actually country in Europe. And the conflict here is nothing in terms of like artillery shelling, JDAMs, HIMARS rocket systems, or we don't have any of that. We don't even have RPGs for that matter, or like Urahan, or in Russian you might say Uragan, or what else do they have? Yeah, just basically a lot of firepower, a lot of ammunition, a lot of weapons, right? And even then, it's a nation versus a nation, like two pretty big nations. One, like I said, is one of the biggest in the world, and the other is supported by the biggest in the world, right? The last time I read, the United States alone has sent like 40 something billion in aid, in military aid to Ukraine, and a lot of the European Union nations have sent it as well, include like, let's say, the Turkish Bayraktars, or a lot of countries sent M2 Brownings, or small arms and ammunition, M777 howitzer shells, you name it, they sent it. So even then, in the course of almost a year in Ukraine, 307 religious sites were destroyed. Here in Manipur, in a small, really, really tiny geographical area, in a matter of a couple of months, 357 plus of those religious sites and buildings were destroyed. So you do the math, right? I'm not even gonna dignify those two statistics with an explanation. You do the math, okay? Okay, so now let's move on to Gaza. And by the way, I pronounce it Gaza because that's how you should pronounce it. Israeli raids on the Gaza Strip have caused the destruction of 47 mosques and damaged 3 churches and 203 schools, in addition to 80 government buildings. So, as you're probably very aware, the IDF, pretty much carpet bombs the city, or should I say concentration camp, every day. And yeah, you're probably aware. The last time I checked, which is like, was it last night or this morning? Like 13,000 plus civilians have died, with like 5 or 6,000 children. It's the humanitarian crisis over there. It's really, really bad. But anyways, we're not here to talk about that exactly. I might talk about it in the future videos, but for now, let's focus on my place, my hometown, the place where I was, born and raised. So over there, even though Israeli forces, the IDF has sent tons, and I mean literal tons and tons and tons of bombs and munition, including even like white phosphorus and stuff, over there in the settlements of Palestinians, 47 mosques and 3 churches have been destroyed. So a total of 50, right? And when you compare it to ours again, 357. And yet, nobody is caught. Nobody is under investigation for any of this. And oh, by the way, I just want to reiterate the fact that I'm from the tribal community of the Kuki Zomi Mar community. So, of course, I'm going to be talking about just our side of the story. If you're a Meitei guy watching this and you disagree with any of this, just, write me a message or leave a comment telling me how wrong I am, because I don't think I'm wrong. Because it's not my opinion. These are facts. These are statistical facts. Having made all those, connections, all those comparisons, I think it's pretty safe to assume that you are pretty, you pretty much get the gist of what's happening here, right? Even though this is not a religious conflict, religion plays a major role as well. I mean, it's one of the underlying factors as well. I would go that far. And I hope you understand. I hope it's pretty damn clear to you, the viewer, on the situation here and just how grave and just how, forgotten it is. So if you ask someone like some Indian guy, just a random Indian, like a friend of yours or whatever, outside of Manipur, unless they're from, like Mizoram or the northeastern states or the Seven Sisters, unless they're from that region, they probably have close to zero idea of what's actually happening here. And why is that? Because the government controls the narrative. That's what they've been trying to do. They have been trying to curb the dissenting voices for like 6 months, over 6 months. On the 3rd of May, when the conflict broke out, immediately in the evening, immediately the mobile data, like the mobile data services were immediately cut off, just like the people, in Gaza, for one simple, obvious reason. The government doesn't want the dissenting voices to be heard. They're trying to prevent any and every media that comes out of specifically tribal dominated areas. It's pretty clear what they're doing, and it has been banned ever since, even till today, unless you're like a super high ranking government official who needs to use the internet on a daily basis, and your line of work has something, it's dependent on the internet. Unless you're that person, you still don't have internet. Like I have my mobile phone, but there's no, I can't access the internet. And again, going back to the 3rd of May, after the mobile services were, smooshed, the Wi-Fi soon followed, and we had no Wi-Fi connection whatsoever. There's no absolute, like, the internet is non-existent. And I could go on and on. I could have like a 5-hour podcast talking about the stuff that the government is constantly trying to do to curb the voices. For example, if someone speaks out, like, for example, people like me, who try to speak out, who try to use social media platforms as a place to spread the truth and awareness about what's actually happening, usually they have court cases, FIR cases slapped against them. For example, I'm not talking about just civilians. I'm talking about professors. I'm talking about retired military like majors, and I'm referring to Major Amit Bansal, who is one of the, like, I respect him so much, to be honest. Like, I do. I respect him so much for speaking out. He is a retired major, as I mentioned, and you can watch a lot of the videos and interviews that he does. He knows Manipur inside out. He knows the tribals inside out. He knows the Métis inside out. And it's, I would go as far as to say that he knows more about, the Métis and the tribals more than we do. And we are them. So, yeah, I highly recommend you watch at least a couple of his interviews, and I'm gonna link them in the description down below. So make sure you go check that out. Okay, and so yeah, like I said, a lot of the people who are very vocal about this conflict have court cases slapped against them. Who knows? It's probably my future. That's probably what awaits me if I continue making videos like this. But like, I don't want to live with my tail tucked between my legs and whimpering like a slave dog. No, I'm not much. I'm not like a macho man who's gonna, pick a gun up and fight. But hey, the pen is mightier than the sword, right? So you gotta do what you gotta do. And I'm not much of anything. I'm not an expert. I'm not a political figure. I'm not a social figure. But I'm doing what I can to try and spread the awareness among my own people and people outside of the state. So that's literally the sole, like the only reason why I'm using English. and I'm not proficient in English that well, so I would rather much prefer to do it in my native language. But the only reason I'm using English is because I want to, hopefully reach at least a few, maybe, 10, 20, 30 people outside of the state, so that they may, or even outside of the country, so that they may be, aware, or they may look into this situation, into this conflict, into this war a little bit more. And I'm calling it a war because it is. Like when you scream, kill all the cookies, and when the other side screams, kill all the metes, and you're being radicalized on both sides, it is a war. I mean, you're literally out there on the front lines, on your duty posts, on your bunkers, like with your guns, waiting to shoot anyone who comes and, conducts an offensive. Like, that is war. So I'm calling it a war because it is war. And I've strayed a little bit off topic from the comparison between like Israel, Hamas, whatever, Russia, Ukraine, and our conflict. I'm not saying our conflict and their conflicts are the same. I'm just comparing the similarities. I'm trying to draw parallels between them. All right. So here you have on the screen a very, very interesting topic: weapons and equipment looted. And this is just a sneak peek of the next video, of the upcoming video. And it's going to be pretty interesting. It's going to be way more interesting than this one. We're going to dive more into a lot of different topics, different interesting topics, and also very, very sad and heartbreaking ones as well, where people have lost their lives in the most horrific, brutal, and barbaric manners. And the, sanctity and the pureness of women have been just, I don't even want to talk about it. Even thinking about it right now makes me a little bit angry. Not a little bit, a lot. So yeah, we're going to be talking about all of those. And unfortunately, I can't post such images on YouTube because, if I do, my channel's going to get taken down immediately, or the video is going to get taken down. So I'm going to link my official WhatsApp and Telegram channels in the description. Make sure to join it if you want to see those kinds of graphic, if you want to call it, media. And the thing you see on the screen now, weapons and equipment looted, it's going to be the topic for the next video, and it's going to be pretty interesting. So make sure you stay tuned for that one, and also make sure you click the like button, the subscribe, share, the drill, help a brother out, So yeah, I guess that's going to be it for this video. I know it's a little bit all over the place because, shit's all over the place, right? So, and one more thing, as usual, I'm going to list my bank details, my GPay or UPI ID, my bank account number, and all that stuff, just in case you want to help out those 45,000 plus internally displaced people, people who need medical attention, people who cannot afford to pay for their displaced children's educations. And we are financially not stable at all. We're just a small community of tribal people. A lot of us farmers, a lot of us, daily wage earners, laborers, construction workers. So please, if you have a heart, consider donating. It will help a lot. It doesn't matter if it's 5 rupees, 10 rupees, $1, a pound, wherever you're from. Every little penny helps. So please consider donating. And I guess that's it for this video. And stay tuned for the next one, because as I mentioned, it's going to be pretty interesting and it's going to make you doubt the government a little bit. Not a little bit, a lot, actually. So until then, stay safe, stay smart. Ciao, ciao.